Hello everyone, my name is TannerBronson. I am doing this video for Ben Page. He asked me if I could do a plot design video, and I am so honored to. I love this part of design, and I can't wait to show it with you guys. So I'm going to do a short video on how to create a good plot to start off with. This is my National Treasure course. I am doing Tillinghast for this contest, and it is inspired by Somerset Hills, which has a lot of rolling terrain, especially on the back nine. And I usually do work with rolling hills and creek stuff, and with valleys and high ridges. So I'm gonna try to teach you guys how to get those really natural features going, and give you a little insight on how I do it. So yeah, I will start off with a bare bones plot, and I'll stop the video here and get that ready. Quick thing to mention, I just wanted to stop here for a second and say that I always leave my water level at 20, and this will become important later, especially if you're doing creeks and ponds and stuff like that. Maybe not for cliffside courses or like oceanside courses, but for anything that like you're doing for an inland course with inland water, I recommend starting off with this water level, and we'll get to that in a second. As I finish up making this plot. And so what that does, it gives you more freedom to do what you want with the water table. You could add a water table below this 20 level, but I just like the water a little bit higher at first, to see what's going on with these little ponds and stuff, and the deeper depressions that you get with the plot. So what my first step is, I'm going to take the fuzziest brush in the menu. It's on page 4. I'm going to start by filling in all these lakes. So doing this, it's not really the most important stage at all. Just it's supposed to clean it up. But I'm doing it sporadically just so I could keep some of this texture here that's on top. Just a little bit, but when you don't do it, I'm going to lower the sun here so you could see. This stuff is going to be too extreme, too aggressive if you leave it the way it is. So what I like to do is I take this, vary it a little bit in size, and I just like to run it over the terrain as quickly as possible, so I could still keep those highs and lows, but it's more muted than the default kind of rumpling that the computer does. So I just like to go over it real quick, and there we go. So now this gives us a good basis to start our water table, and this is a very important step, again, if you are doing any sort of creek bed or pond bed. So I create the water. I'm gonna raise it about like 5-10 feet, like this. We're gonna line it up. And we're gonna fill up the entire plot. The entire plot's gonna be covered by this whole water plane. And then we're going to do the same thing and lower it about, oh my goodness. There we go. Sorry. So doing this first is super important, because when you start designing and you are really getting into it, you're going to want to raise and lower stuff once you have everything down on the plot, and it's really hard to get that fixed when you want that type of water table for your creeks and stuff. So now our water is all set. So since it's below the water, we have to raise it back up, and this is how I do it. I take the this bigger brush here, and I go over the entire thing. Yeah, that might be too high. So I don't like to go too high up past the actual water plane that we put down, just so it's more accessible once we do if you choose to put a creek in your plot. So when we start finding those low areas, it'll be much more accessible. So I'm just going to finish filling this up, and I'll be right back. Alright, so now we have a bare bones plot. So as you can see, we still have like some of this rumpling here. It's just not as extreme, which is perfect. So it's a great way to start. So now we're going to take this brush on page 1, third brush. I like to raise it about 13 to 15 feet. And then make it this size. I don't like to you know, do this and go over everything. I like to get it a little bit smaller. And so when I am brushing here, I'm thinking about ridges and shapes that I could actually kind of create with macro sculpting. So it really depends on what type of feel you're going for, because there's so many different types of environments that you could try to mix and match or try to emulate. So for my National Treasure plot, I was trying to get Somerset Hills, like New Jersey, Bedminster vibe, with some flatter areas, but then some places that you could find some really interesting ridges and stuff. My World Cup course, Highland Park, has those, you know, rolling hills of upstate New York with the, you know, glacial formed ridges and depressions, and so I would do that differently compared to Somerset Hills type land. So have that idea in your head before you start throwing down ridges and you know, hills and little knobs and shapes like that. So for this, let's say I'm doing like an Essex, like the Donald Ross type plot with some rolling hills and some low areas to maybe put a creek. So then I'm going to think about ridge lines, maybe ones that extend far, have like a you know, big singular hill somewhere. Get some really interesting rolls in the terrain. So what I'm doing here is I'm just sporadically kind of like glazing over, lowering, kind of changing the shape of the brush and changing the height of everything, just going back and forth, kind of you know, distributing the love of this brush. Just use it liberally, for sure. Don't get too crazy, because once you start going around like this and, you know, have your, you know, hand down on it the entire time, you're not gonna get some, I mean, yes, you're gonna get some really interesting ridges and stuff, but this is not going to be playable land once you start throwing micro sculpting down. So I don't really like to do that. This is more of a rolling hills type tutorial, if I could explain it that way. So now we're getting some really we're getting smaller ridges, but it's a rolling terrain, and we could start to see some you know, interesting corridors that you could see holes going down. So now that we have like this macro sculpting done, I've kind of just thrown down ridges and stuff. I'm thinking about, okay, here's the center of my plot, and how can I make the center of this plot go out to something interesting, or maybe there's like an interesting feature closer to the center. That's completely your decision. It's like whatever you feel like, but I always like to have like some sort of like centerpiece like feature to the plot, and most of the times that is a nose of a ridge that comes off like from the side, and so that's what I'm kind of doing here. it's a little too big for me, so what I'll do is I'll get a very small flattened brush, pull it down a little bit to a nicer height, and kind of rush over it real quick. So now we have some rolling hills and some of this micro sculpting that we have. But now what I actually like to do is throw the trees back on, and after that, hold on, to arrange that. Okay, sorry. I throw the trees back on, and so what I do with that is I take this clear generated trees brush, and I go crazy. I make little clearings because with a vacant plot or wherever you're your imaginary plot is, you're gonna have like these like clearings, little pastures in the woods, and it could give you an idea of what whole corridors could exist just naturally in a certain area. So I'm leaving trees in the middle, and that's just because it could cut off certain parts of the hills that you probably wouldn't imagine seeing cut off without the trees there. So this really helps me kind of find an eye for wherever holes could go. It could bend around certain features, and those trees kind of highlight those features a bit more for me. So now I could start looking at whole core. I said that already. I'm trying to delete these measuring tools. Oh boy. So yeah, now I could look for green sites. As you can see, now we have that like rolling terrain, really gradual highs and lows, but then you could have some like really harsher ridges right here, which it varies a lot more when you use that brush sporadically in a much smaller size. So and then when you want to find a little pond area, now you have your water table all set and ready to have it look as nice and as natural as possible. So I hope this helps. This is how I start every single one of my courses. And if you're looking for this rolling hills, like with little rumpled terrain look, this is the way to do it. I hope this helped. Thank you so much, Ben, for asking me to do this video. It's a pleasure, and thank you. Hope you enjoyed.